US President Donald Trump has decried concerns over the transmission of military plans on the messaging app Signal. He's called it a witch hunt. He has sought to deny the seriousness of the leak, in which his top national security officials seem to have tied themselves up in knots.
I want to find if there's any mistake.
The president addressed reporters from the Oval Office in the White House on the very same day that some top members of his intelligence team faced very sharp questions from the House Intelligence Committee. Trump's top national security team is accused of using a consumer messaging app, Signal, to discuss planned American military strikes in Yemen. And there were messages with details of the precise time of the strikes, which were published on Wednesday by The Atlantic magazine. In fact, this whole controversy came to light when the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, Jeffrey Goldberg, claimed that he had been inadvertently added to a group which included the likes of Michael Waltz, the National Security Advisor, Pete Hegseth, the Defense Secretary, and Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, among more than a dozen others.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Days after the leak went public, Trump and his aides were still trying to downplay it and have yet to establish a coherent narrative to push back.
I don't know anything about it. I'm not a big fan of The Atlantic. To me, it's a magazine that's going out of business.
There was no classified information, as I understand it. They used a app, if you want to call it an app, that a lot of people use, a lot of people in government use, a lot of people in the media use. Well, yeah, Mike Waltz, I guess he said he claimed responsibility, I would imagine. It had nothing to do with anyone else. It was Mike, I guess.
It's embarrassing, right. Yes. We're going to get to the bottom of it.
Michael Waltz is the National Security Advisor of the United States. He said in an appearance on Fox News that he had created the group and he would take full responsibility for the leak. Trump and his White House administration officials have also insisted for days now that the information that was leaked in the Signal chat was not classified information. But President Trump appeared to backtrack on that claim in his Oval Office remarks that happened Wednesday after the full transcript was released by The Atlantic magazine. Trump instead said that he was ultimately not so much concerned about the leak itself, going on to proclaim that no harm was done because the attack on the Houthis in Yemen was unbelievably successful. The new messages published by The Atlantic showed that the Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth had shared critical details of the upcoming operation against the Houthis. Most crucially, there was precise timing of the launches of F-18 fighter jet aircrafts from aircraft carriers that were there in the Gulf of Aden. Those same F-18s were to then go ahead and strike the Houthi targets. The exact time of those strikes were also detailed in those chats. It also describes one of the main targets as the main missile man of the Houthis, even though he's not been named. All of which, if this information had fallen in the wrong hands, it could have completely upended the strikes. It could have even put active US military personnel in harm's way. Hegseth was under immense pressure even in his Senate confirmation hearings. Eventually, J.D. Vance, the vice president, had to use his casting vote in the Senate to break the tie of 49-49 each. There were all kinds of accusations against Hegseth, including a major alcoholism problem, having sex with a minor, multiple affairs with different women. Hegseth, though, did not offer an apology in his remarks to reporters in Hawaii. He's on a four-nation tour right now. He has once again relied on semantics and the argument that the disclosures made as part of the Signal chat were not war plans. He insisted that no specific details, no names were revealed in the Signal chat.
Nobody's texting more plans. I know exactly what I'm doing, exactly what we're directing, and I'm really proud of what we accomplished, the successful missions that night and going forward.
But Hegseth did not quite address how a disclosure, which he released 30 minutes before the fighter jets took off from the Gulf of Aden and 2 hours before the strikes began, how that did not constitute as an attack plan. In fact, there is now political pushback as well against the Signal chat leak. Senator Roger Wicker, who is the Republican chairman of the Senate committee which has oversight over the Pentagon, became the first member of the Republican Party who has called for an independent review. Wicker is one of the toughest Republican critics of Pete Hegseth. He has joined Senator Jack Reed, who's a top Democrat on the committee. Both of them are now saying they're going to request an expedited investigation by the Defense Department. Secretary of State Marco Rubio confirmed while he was on a visit to Jamaica that he too was among the members of the chat group and that someone had made a big mistake in adding Jeffrey Goldberg, the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic.
Obviously, someone made a mistake. Someone made a big mistake and added a journalist. Nothing against journalists, but you ain't supposed to be on that thing.
But senior members of Trump's intelligence team, the CIA Director John Ratcliffe, the Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, and FBI Chief Kash Patel were grilled by the House Intelligence Committee for the second day running. And during the course of that interrogation, there were quite a few awkward moments and uncomfortable questions that were asked of Trump's top intelligence gatherers. Gabbard in particular had to walk back on some of her comments from Tuesday, where she said that operational details were not shared in the Signal chat.
It was a mistake that a reporter was inadvertently added to a Signal chat with high-level national security principles, having a policy discussion about imminent strikes against the Houthis and the effects of the strike.
Senior members of the Trump administration have offered a series of shifting and sometimes even contradictory explanations for how this episode occurred. They want to steer the conversation away from the leak itself to how the actual operation was and how successful the actual operation was. Trump has insisted that no classified information was shared among the members of the group. He also insisted that it was not uncommon for members of his government to use Signal or any other commercial messaging app for official business. He has also spent a lot more energy disparaging The Atlantic and the journalist in question, Jeffrey Goldberg, than actually defending his NatSec officials. He even called The Atlantic a failed magazine. This same persecution complex strategy has been used by Trump in the past to wriggle out of numerous criminal investigations against him in the last 4 years. The President and the Secretary of Defense, that's Trump and HEGSETH, have the ability, as per the US Constitution, to even retrospectively claim that certain information is declassified. So even if the information that was shared by HEGSETH in this group was deemed to be classified at the time that it was shared, both he and the President have the power to declassify it. Former national security officials, though, have said that they are very skeptical about the information shared by HEGSETH, saying that it looks classified to them, particularly given the specificity and also the life or death consequences for US military personnel who undertook the mission. This is the first big controversy in the 2 months that Trump has been in office. If it will cost any of his top national security lieutenants their job, that is still an open question.